Please approach the podium, state your name and address. All right, it looks like we don't have anyone wishing to address mayor and council, so we will move on to unfinished business. Regarding discussion on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. As we left it at the last meeting, we had tabled discussion regarding ordinance 2026-9. We will need a motion to untable the discussion.
Untable to discuss it.
Yes.
I'll make that.
Okay. Do we have a second? All right. All in favor of untabling the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right. The discussion is now untabled. So you have received, the council has received the budget package for fiscal year 2026-2027. You should have also received an update to that agenda, sorry, to the budget itself. There were changes to fiscal year 25-26 amounts that were amended. After further review, Steve Bodie and myself were able to make those updates.
I do have some questions.
Okay.
So I see that the fund balance forward has increased, so I assume that after you've made other deposits, et cetera, and payments, that it increased. Compared to what it was last time.
Go ahead, Steve.
So the amended numbers have changed, so that will affect the beginning fund balance of the next fiscal year.
The last one showed $2,920,940.
Yeah.
This one now is $3,070,940.
Yep, because of the amended changes, yes.
On that, I thought based on the screenshots that were posted on the fund balance earlier this week, I thought we were at 2.2 for the general fund balance. Are we carrying over? I thought we were keeping the savings separate from that fund balance, so where are we at?
No, the entire amount is what's in that's our general fund balance, but it is separated by bank account as what's considered savings and investment and what's considered what we're operating out of.
So we are currently at 3.9 as of those screenshots, so we're anticipating 900,000 in expenses not being carried over in the next 6 days.
I think what you were looking at, if I'm not mistaken, was the cash balance, which is different from the fund balance. So
Okay.
within the fund balance is the cash portion. So, assets minus liabilities equals your fund balance. So
Okay.
cash being an asset is included in that fund balance as a whole.
So what assets are included in the fund balance that are not being reflected here?
So that would be buildings, that would be vehicles, all different types of assets would be encompassed in that, correct, Steve?
Correct, yes.
Do you guys have a list of those?
It is on our website, yes.
And it's a running balance. Since the beginning of time, is that correct, Steve?
Correct, yes. Mhm.
I do have some questions about salaries and wages for some of the employees. So on the, I think you may have answered that in the email. In the general government administrative, we were at 314,487. Time that you, let's see, that included the city administrative position in there as well, and then if you do a 3% across the board cost of living, that takes it to 323,921. You're proposing 321. If we don't have we don't include the city administrative position in there, then I guess you're moving over the community center coordinator into this amount, and then you've added in the full-time.
Administrative assistant, full-time.
Okay, so that probably would make a difference. Just wanted to get that out, because that was an increase of $110,000, so that makes sense. You move those two over.
So did we remove the city administrator salary from the budget?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So that's why, so, okay, because I was looking at it and it was at our November amendment, we had salaries and wages at 372 and we've dropped it to 321. So we've removed that and we'll just have 5 full-time positions in administration, not 6.
Correct.
Okay, and then in the Public Works, you proposed salary and wages of $230,000. $230.
$230,000 increase?
The way it is now, if we include the 3% cost of living increase, that would take that number, what it is currently, that would take that number to $170,241. So there's almost a $60,000 difference. I know you've included a fourth person in there.
Yeah, so we're also not currently, we do not have the seasonal employees, so
Okay,
we're
so
still
you're
including
including
that as
that in
well.
there as well. Okay, so that would make up that 60, it actually was 59.9, so that would make that amount up. And then the only other ones,
Steve, while you're on Public Works,
Yeah.
the Word document did not total up to the same amount. It was like $600 off. It totaled to $748,490 when you put it all together.
Okay.
So it's.
That's a very nominal difference.
I don't know where the 600, but I noticed that the document didn't add up to the, I believe you were proposing 747,890. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the correct one.
That's what's here.
Okay, yeah, when you total those up,
It's off
comes
by
out
about
to, it comes out,
600.
yeah.
Okay.
It's off by $600.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where.
It must,
There's a
they
couple
must have
of-
dropped a number as we were adding them together.
Yeah, there's a couple like road repair and payroll and taxes that both end in $600, so.
Yeah.
the other department is the police department.
Mm-hmm.
You're proposing in the budget salary and wages of $997,230. The way it is currently today, I think it's the same amount of officers.
Well, we had actually added one officer since last budget, so that's part of the.
Well, the,
But we also, and I had noted it in the updates, that the amendment that we picked up in November, at that time, because I honestly didn't have access to paper at that moment, and in discussions with the previous city administrator, those salaries were to remain the same, but to come to find out, there was additional raises given in August that I wasn't aware of. So we had to catch up with that. That also has an effect on any overtime rates going forward, so there was an increase in the salaries. So of the 120,000, that would be the additional officer plus the pay increases.
well, based on the, yeah, I've got it here, so you're proposing $997,230. The way it is now, it's the time you add the 3% on top of what we have been paying, it comes to $846,100, and that includes that includes 12. Do we still have 12 in the police department? And that, which includes. the
I believe we're
police
fully
department.
staffed, correct? We have our 12.
We have 11.
We have 11,
We
okay.
have 11 officers and 1 clerk as well.
So the amount of, if you had a 3% increase, that would take that up to $846,100. So the difference is $151,000.
Mhm. And of that 151, I did mention that the 120,000, of that, there was an additional pay increases that I wasn't aware of. And
Well, I've included the pay increase in here.
one moment, so we were
But the
looking at
additional pay
salaries.
increases was, again,
So I will tell you the
$33,000.
calculation that we did is with current employees. So
Wow.
the amounts that you're seeing, if there's a variance there, that is just the increase with the current employees that we have.
Well, I'm including the increase with everything.
Did the November amendment
It
include
did
that
not
increase?
include, no, I was unaware of it,
Okay,
so it was not captured.
It used to be, the total was
previous administration had given that
including
raise.
everyone, it was $787,000. And then we gave additional there were additional increases of 33,903, so that took it to 821,000. And for being posed as 997, even with the 3%, we're still $151,000 over, above that. I'm just wondering,
I don't believe that it's over. Let me take a look at the,
I mean, if we're not going to add any more police, and they got the 3% increase,
but I will tell you that, again, this is a budget that's based off of our current expenses.
Are
There's
you
not anything else being
overtime
added
there,
into
or-
there. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, I'm just showing what we're paying now, based on what was approved back in,
There's an amount, there's an incentive amount that's included in that.
there's what?
An incentive, police get incentive pay, that's included in that salary line item.
Yeah, so
Is that-
we had together, that includes salaries, overtime, holiday pay, the incentive pay, all of that's included. So if you're seeing an additional amount that is.
Of 151,000.
Yeah, we're combining those all together. So it's not just, we're not just looking at salaries alone, like what their hourly rate would be times the hours worked. We're including any additional overtime, holiday pay, et cetera.
Okay, well, what's included in there is, in addition, you've got benefits and payroll taxes, which, I'm gonna include. You got the vehicle, you got the police buying training, other police operations that wouldn't include what you just spoke on.
So if we were looking at the previous budget, the amounts that we're saying are included.
Well, I'm
that's
just looking at
including-
what.
But that's including salaries, overtime, holiday pay. All together, the 2025-26 budget would be $882,000 compared to the amended amount of $964,710. So the increase is about $80,000.
Well, I showed 151 based on what the salary is today, along with the 3% increase. It showed 151,000 difference.
Let me look at the,
'Cause, yeah, all in all, with salary, wages, benefits, and payroll taxes, we're nearing 1.7, it's like 1.65 of expenses just for personnel for the police department.
In 2005, or 2025 rather, it was 1.5 million.
Is that what you said?
1.5 million for 2025. The amended budget, we're looking at 1.62 million. So with the increase for next year, 1.65. So it is going up, but
Well, I'm just looking at the salaries, and then the total for police expenses is $1,008,000.
right, so that includes the salaries of $988,000, benefits and payroll taxes of $660,000, vehicle operations and fuel of $66,000, the Exxon technology system, which was mentioned previously, $36,400, the police e-bike at $6,000, training and certifications at little less than $10,000, then other police operations at $65,000. So all in all, the additional amounts on top of salaries and benefits is really about $180,000.
Okay, I'm just looking at, under the proposed budget, salaries and wages, I'm just looking at that total, knowing what is being paid today, there's a $151,000 difference increase.
So as we show the police operations, the budget amended amount on page 29 for police operations is $1,765,760. The 2027 proposed budget is $1,838,940, which is an increase of about, what is that, about 70,000?
Whatever, and that's what I'm looking at,
Yeah.
what I have here. I'm just saying
So
the
that should be
difference in
capturing-
salaries and wages.
Right, and that's why I had mentioned.
$151,000 even,
I understand, but that's why I had mentioned what hadn't been captured in the previous budget. So we hadn't captured the in-pay increase, which also affects OT. So with the amended amount, I think that should make more sense of where the difference lies.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Being goofy and just not knowledgeable on it, how is incentive pay determined and how much is it?
Steve?
that is a great question for our police department.
Yeah? And I don't know if we have, I don't know if Cap Neestum could answer that.
Chief Beck did not put that in the email that he sent.
Okay.
So that's money that we get, if, I think it's, you have to have all your certifications and everything in order to get that. And it's money that comes like
The
a,
only incentives that we have is about, is for Clef, and that's 51,000.
yeah.
I don't see anything in his email that says anything about, incentives.
I think it's-
certifications or something like that.
I think it's incentive, I think
think
that's
it's gonna
probably
be
what they
CLEP.
mean, the clef pay, and we get reimbursed for that, get money for that
Yep,
monthly.
so there is revenue to offset that,
Yeah.
correct?
So I think it's roughly 4,500.
Yeah,
Does it
just-
increase
it's
every year?
increasing, Yes,
I think
yeah.
it was 51,000.
But I think ultimately the state tells
Correct.
us what that needs to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I believe right now it's 45, 26 a year for each officer. It's
Yeah.
July, it's going to increase. I think close to around 600.
I just input, it's like 89.60 a week. So like, if
Yeah.
somebody wants to do
Okay.
the math, because I just updated it today for July.
It was 52, or actually it was 69,354, correct, is what we're amending. The amount, or sorry, 72,370 is what we're amending that to, the CLEP.
And if I could, are we finished with the police?
Go ahead.
Unless there are other questions. Move on to the fire EMS.
Mhm.
Salary and wages is proposed is $516,500. They were at $336, $283, so it's an increase of, if I do the 3% increase on top of the cost of living, it's been increased by $174,000. And I know you're gonna add 3 new EMS personnel
In
there.
January, correct?
So would that mean they would start passage of this budget?
No, in January.
Why would they start in January if we pass the budget today, or, you know?
That was the discussion between us and the fire chief that we would start in January. In January, that was a discussion between us and the fire chief to get them to start in
It just seems
January.
like if it's in the budget though. why
It's
they
not
would
being,
start
it's
now?
not being included in this proposed budget. If that is something that council would like to do, it would be an increased amount.
Well, that's
that
what,
we
that
could
was my
calculate.
question. Since
But it's only including the 6 months.
$4,000. Does that include those 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I just don't see, to
6
me, it
months.
would make sense for them to start
It would just,
upon passage of this
Right.
budget.
we can make that amendment, but again, it would increase the expenses.
Well, it didn't include it in here, that was my question, $174,000 increase, that's included in here.
Not for the full year. That's just for 6 months for those positions.
Chief, is that,
What's the question?
so we're only budgeting half of the year
Mhm.
for these.
Correct.
What would they be making? I mean, what was the average salary?
I mean, within the pay range,
I mean, each of them, if it's $174,000, it's around $58,000. Each, is that
My proposal is 55,000.
$50,000?
And that's
That'd
for
be an
6 months?
entry amount.
And that's
For a
just,
whole year.
that's starting January
that would be
1?
his annual fee, that'd be an annual rate.
Starting,
correct.
what?
That would be the annual rate, yes, for each position,
And did we budgeted a whole?
just for the
Well, we
6
budgeted,
months.
I mean, 174,000 more.
That would be
than-
100.
Yeah. I think this figure does include that they get 8 hours of overtime each week. On top of that, plus this also includes any overtime, holiday pay, et cetera, is similar as above with the police.
I guess I'm still confused.
If we want to amend it to include it for the full year, I'm all for that, but we've only included the 6 months.
So what would that amount be if we amended it for the full year?
We would have to do another calculation of that because it includes benefits, FICA, et cetera.
It'd be nice to know what that figure might be.
I would also ask that we look at the pay plan when we do it, because currently our administrative assistants are making more than our firefighters and EMTs. And I think that we should rectify that. They're starting at 12, and our administrative assistants are starting at 15.
Well, I don't think we should be discussing pay rates at this moment. We're discussing the budget. in whole.
Our pay plans are part of the open discussion, and I think we need to make sure that if we're gonna include the rates of how much we need to increase the budget by, I think that's all fair game in terms of the topic. I would be supportive of supporting a full year of staffing
That's
for the
fine.
three.
We were trying to keep it within reason, the
'Cause-
increased amounts for the year.
Because I think that's where I also got confused, because the fire department budget decreased this year by about $40,000.
Yes.
When we wanted to add the additional staff, and then I know we also have a couple of those software systems. So I know we've got the
Correct.
Lucas system, the Pervious
Stryker.
system, and then I know we also wanted to add Stryker in there, which I didn't see that in the line item breakdown that you sent
Stryker,
over.
like 75,000 or something?
Yeah.
Well, what we've done with the fire budget is there has been historically some padding there, so we leaned it out to try and ensure that we were saving some funds there, to try and capture more actual.
And I saw where you
costs.
did that, which was good, because you look at the actual, and it did go down a little bit. But as far as like this equipment like Stryker.
If we want to
recent
increase
years
that,
now,
to add that in as well,
It's
I'm
at
all
like
for that.
75,000, but
Does that 90?
does it make sense to add that in?
Yeah.
We can add that in. Again, we're trying to be
Just-
reasonable with the amount of changes we
I
give in one
understand,
year.
yeah, yeah.
Does the 93,000, what does the current 93,000 for equipment and supplies cover?
That is listed in the budget package.
Could you give me a page, please?
It is page 36, I'm looking at it now.
I think it's reasonable to add that in, and when we get close to the end of
new
our
one.
In the
discussion.
new one.
So you want the
Mention why.
striker added at 75,000,
And I'll mention at the end of.
and
all
you
this
want the
discussion
full 12 months
why
for
I
the
feel
three
good that we can
positions.
handle that.
Okay, yeah, I think if we wanted to add that under that line item, that would make sense.
I'm all for adding anything. I was just trying to be reasonable for this budget. I know there's a lot of changes that happen in one year, so I want to make sure.
Those are all the questions I had on
Okay.
salaries thing, but I do have, if it's appropriate now, I do have a question of the real property and personal property tax amounts.
I'm sorry, one more time.
How we figured the revenue for taxes when it comes to just real property and personal property. I think
So you're asking,
I think you're
Like how we
proposing
came to those assumptions?
$2,470,000, is that correct?
are you asking, that's how did we come to that assumption? Or you're
Yeah,
asking-
because
okay.
I've got a different amount that I figured, and I just want to see what, if I'm not adding something right.
Well, again, we look at historical amounts. I mean, looking at 2025, we may have different amounts that were brought in 2026. A lot of our, I won't say a lot, but some of our line items, we actually brought in more than we estimated this past budget. So we
Did you guys-
increased it based on actuals. There are some line items where we maybe brought in a little bit less than we would have anticipated based on 2025. So those are things we have to investigate as to why. So we make the assumption that it should have been what was 2025's amount.
So making an estimate, because I know we don't know what the tax rate's going to be,
Mhm.
but based on what we think we know, the assessment increase because of the assessment
Right.
PBA did with Ludlow this year. If we kept just using the same rate that we have today, which is 53.4 cents per hundred, that would bring in revenue of $1,790,502. And if you add in the personal property from last year, it should have been 194,000. It comes to $1,985,226. You're proposing, I keep saying you and Steve work on budget, proposing $2,470,220. So there's a difference of $484,000
Are you looking at the amended amount, or are you looking at the budget?
budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I understand that.
So I was just
And that's why
wondering-
we tried to provide the amended amounts, so that you could see what we're projected to end with, and that we will have the discussion on what the
Because
amendment
I know
for the
we don't
2025.
always collect 100%. I think we're about
Right.
97% rate on collecting personal property, or real
Mm-hmm.
property, but personal property's always been like 40 or 50%. So
So-
I'm just wondering where the,
Yeah.
you know.
So for personal
the difference
property-
of
property-
484,000.
Well, for instance, personal property, we ended up collecting about 40,000 more than we had budgeted. That's just one.
Personal property?
For personal property.
So if we were supposed to collect 194,000.
Oh, sorry, my bad, I was looking at the wrong line. Yeah, we actually collected about 50,000 more
Yeah,
for
see,
personal
so-
property.
And that's been that way for the past, that I know,
Mhm.
2 or 3, 4 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, we brought in more than we anticipated
Well,
this past
Not
year.
for personal property, but for real property. You're referring to.
Yeah, I'm looking at the personal property tax line.
What did you say the real property, we've ended up with?
1.79 million.
How much?
1.79 million
Okay.
and 500,000. The same exact number that you had stated, less $2.
Okay, so I was close to that.
Pretty close. $2 off, but yeah, pretty close.
Well, that's more, but what I figured in was, the assessment from PDA came in at, you know, and it was ballpark, as you recall, was 33 million, and I figured that $1.7 million on, at the current rate, only at 30 million more. Because I know 3 or 4 million of that's gonna be homestead that we're gonna lose. So we won't see that. So I came in at $1.7 million, and then, proposed was 2.4 million. That works, that's where I was saying the difference is 484, and it's always been, it seems like the personal property that has been hurting us.
I would also say to take into consideration, there are still more houses that are being developed up on the hill, and what they've given us, or what the land value is, and once it's been completed, we'll look at the full amount of what the
Is that the pilot
improvement.
you're referring to?
Yeah, yeah, so we're looking, we'll also have the increase of the additional
Because I
houses
know
and
any new
apartments.
properties that are sold, you know,
Right.
bought, sold, and then plus those, we don't see benefit
Right.
of that until the following year.
What's included in the assessment is many of just the land value alone. It's not including any improvements until it's completed. So between now and the end of this year and next year, there'll be many more houses. that are-
Okay, so I see a difference of 484,000, so you feel confident that that's a good number? that-
I mean, the actual variance that we have for, just for ad valorem alone is about 200,000 increase over this past year. So I think that's a pretty good projection.
Okay, so you feel good with that?
Just kind of historically speaking, the last time we were assessed, back in,
4 years ago.
right, we had a significant increase in revenues altogether.
Yeah,
It's
because,
27%.
It went up, the assessment went up 65 million,
Yes,
dropped the rate 13%.
yep.
But because of the new rate dropping 13%, the additional,
Mhm.
we did.
Right. Yeah, so it was a significant
And we'll gain on
increase.
this as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're only, overall revenues, we're estimating 2.8% increase over last year. Whereas
Which makes
previous
full
assessment,
sense.
yeah,
Will make sense, yeah.
right.
I had a couple questions about the revenue schedule as well. With the proposed budget, I was curious, when the year-to-date actuals were pulled, when was that as of?
That was in May, the
Okay.
last that we last presented. So now what we're showing is what we should be ending with as the amendment that we will discuss after this.
Okay, because I was a little shocked to see it was $1 million difference in, we were year-to-date at 5.2, and then our amended budget is being proposed at 6.1. I just,
Well, we're
that was a
amending
very
to ensure that
interest.
we're capturing everything based off of where we left off at this point in the year from what we received as of June.
So we received $1 million in June.
I updated the year-to-date
Okay.
just this month,
Okay.
actually within the last few days. So
Okay.
currently, year-to-date, $5.8 million.
5.8, okay, so
Yes.
then we're projecting
Projecting
that we're
another 2
gonna
weeks.
get another 400,000 in the next,
We are projecting the amended budget is going to go up $30,000 within the next 10 days.
the budget amendment says 6.1 for the revenue Page 23.
I'm sorry, could you say which line you're looking at one more time?
So I'm on page 24 of the most recent
Oh,
document you
24,
sent.
I was looking at 23.
And it's the 2025-2026 budget amendment has our total at 6.1 for our total revenues.
Mm-hmm.
Steve's saying 5.8, but then
Oh,
our
we're
budget
taking it
amendment is,
There was an additional, the transfer from fund balance originally, from their previous amended budget
Yeah.
of 250,000, that's the difference.
Yes, that's what we had included in the amendment in November, was the 250,000 that transferred from savings into our operational budget, or operational account.
okay. But then I don't want to jump ahead, but then we are getting a different number on the revenues listed on the ordinance for 2026-10. That's at 6.2. So we've got 5.8, 6.1, and
Are you, but
6.2.
that also includes the municipal road aid, which is listed separately. So you
But I don't think that would bump us up that much, would it? Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the 2025-2026 budget line, those numbers do not align with ordinance 2025-16 that we passed in November.
Are you also adding those numbers together for the municipal road aid with the budget amended? That should be,
It's, yes, okay. Thank you.
mhm.
In the narrative, you mentioned the drug forfeiture fund and the opioid settlement dollars being separate line items. Where would those, I didn't see that, so that's just going to be,
It's just captured in miscellaneous revenue, but it is being tracked as a separate fund.
okay, so it wouldn't be in the restricted fund category?
Oh, I guess that's a good, is that restricted funds that you've listed as, Steve, or is that in miscellaneous?
That is in miscellaneous, we should definitely recode that.
We can obviously move that as well.
Okay.
But I
just
mean,
wasn't-
the amount in total is still the same.
Okay, because I know in the narrative it was mentioned that it was a restricted fund, but I also wasn't sure how much of that are those dollars for us to, between the drug forfeiture and the opioid settlement dollars of what we're expecting.
Somewhere around
for next-
60,000 as far as the opioid settlement funds that we have.
16 or 60?
60.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I had about grant revenue was, I wanted to ask about the ARPA dollars, because a lot of cities and municipalities are working on their reconciliation and closeout for the ARPA funding that has to be spent by the end of 2026. How are we on spending those dollars and reconciling that grant closeout?
I don't think we have any ARPA dollars.
Yeah, those monies have been
Okay.
spent years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so they're all spent, okay, so have we closed those grants out successfully?
I believe
then?
so.
Okay,
We just submitted a report, actually, the first week I was back in here, so
okay,
apparently Wayne didn't have access, so I was able to get in there and do the report. We should be closed out.
okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, because any dollars we don't spend, we have to pay back, so I want to make sure that if
Right.
we needed to make that payment back, we can do that. I noticed in the general fund administration line item that there was building and facility operations for the city building,
Mm-hmm.
building, facility, and operations for the community center.
Right.
I didn't see anything for the fire department building. Do we?
That's just this, it's being tracked separately under their expenses for as far as, because it's just, they manage it under their,
Is that
budget.
under other fire operations? What is that line?
I mean, I don't think we listed it, and it would more than likely be, because we didn't break it out separately based
Right.
on their budget.
Okay. So is there a reason that we do that versus like not putting the, I don't know, like the community center in with the?
Because, I mean, that's being maintained under administration as far as the
Okay.
city building and community center.
Okay. Okay, I just thought it was a little odd that we just had like one department out there with a different building, facility operations budget than the others, so I thought I'd ask the question. And then I wanted to ask on, as we get into understanding where we're at year-to-date actuals, I know as of the March 12th meeting, Wayne had about 458 transactions that he said he was working on entering into QuickBooks and getting coded.
We're
Where-
down to like under 20 at this point.
Under
Yeah,
20.
we still have to, we have a lot of entries that we still have to, you know, adjusting entries and reconciliations, and we won't fully have that completed until, what, August, September, like,
Yeah, probably August, late August, early September kind of thing, yeah.
Okay, so will that have any impact on the budget amendment that we have to approve, knowing that those haven't necessarily hit the respective departmental budgets yet?
I mean, we've just projected out based on historical trends, how much that will be. And as you'll see in the upcoming budget amendment, we're actually ending more favorably. So expenses should not be exceeding revenues once we get to that.
And typically, we don't really close out the books until the late August, early September timeframe, just because of expenses come in, the timing of it all.
And still have to be applied to the previous
Right.
fiscal year, not necessarily to the next
Correct.
fiscal year, depending on the work and when it was completed.
Right.
Again, a budget is a best guess estimate based on the information you have at hand.
I just, particularly as we're talking about the amendment for the current year budget, I would want to make sure that we're
We can discuss
working with
how
the
that-
best
yeah.
numbers, because I want to, we've been out of compliance for so many years. I want to make sure that we feel good about where those numbers are at.
I feel
'cause we
much
don't
better
want another
with where we're
finding.
at
Yeah.
than previous years, correct.
So my whole thought of this new budget, you know, we talked about adding the 3 full-time EMTs, the amount in there for the striker equipment, 75, the other things we talked about. So what I did, I put together a report showing what our average spend has been since 2022 for each year, and each month of those years. And if you kind of look at this, what I get out of it is, this does not include payroll. So we're typically averaging around monthly spending of around $230,000 a month on average. But we've had a lot of one-time payments, and you can see what those are down there. So even after all these payments that we've made over all these years, and even going into this year, our general fund balance has been very healthy. So what this tells me is that we're, you know, even if we have some additional one-time payments for something that we may not have budgeted for, came up, our fund balance, our general fund balance is going to be very healthy. And this kind of shows, because you can see all the vehicles we pay, what we pay for the park shelter, everything.
Yeah.
And we still, no one's probably even noticed that our fund balance has went down. It's typically gone up.
Right.
So I feel, you know, with that, I feel good about the budget. And then I would also say that we take a look, once the budget's passed, maybe the November, December timeframe, now we know exactly what a lot of the revenues would be because, you know, the taxes and everything, because we don't get that information until August, and we vote on September on it. Take a second look at it, see if anything needs to be amended. So come May timeframe, when the auditors come in, we're not gonna get dinged for
We
being
can
over
take a look at
budget
that.
again,
Mhm.
if
That's a
that
great
makes
idea.
sense. So anything I would want to vote for on that would have to, I would like to say that we take another look and see if it needs to be amended,
Right.
up or down.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that's my thought.
Is there any other questions about the budget?
About revenue or expenses?
Anything? It's open for discussion.
Okay, so, I heard what you said about the, fund balance being good and solid and stable. And we're so lucky because over time, we had the PBA reassessment, which increased our tax base, which helped with that, and then we've had Fisher, so that's increased our tax base. But, that won't happen regularly. Those are not things that happen regularly. And I'm concerned with the proposed budget for this year being about $353,000 more expenses more than revenue for the year. That's a concern for me.
I do want to just mention, as explained in the budget package, about 200,000 of that is being carried over that wasn't spent in this year, is being carried over next year. So technically, it's an increase of 150,000.
I understand that, but I'm still concerned that we are spending more than we're bringing in. That's just not good budget processes. And I understand there are things we would like to get done in the city. I totally understand that. But I would like for us to consider phasing some of these in so that we're not taking such a financial hit this year.
I think that council should also consider that we saved for many years, and we have savings that have been squirreled away, that we haven't done things that needed to be done that have went for years undone. So we're kind of catching up at this point to get the things that are needed. I mean, one of them being the tasers that were done away with years ago.
And those are the types of things I think we should definitely pursue.
And those are the types of things of why this budget was increased.
Well, I'm looking at park expense category specifically, which is one that concerns me.
Well, in the park expense, it is explained that 150,000 of that is the Hollingsworth Field lighting project, which we had already discussed that we would be included in this budget. We discussed that last year during the budget amendment process, that we would be including the Hollingsworth Field project, field lights.
Is that anything that the school can help out with?
It's definitely something that we can have discussions on. We had previously talked about an exchange of lighting projects. That's still something that we can discuss, but that's not going to be completed before this budget is passed.
What's your goal of timing for the field lighting project? Because if that's something that
It's-
we're hoping
it's
to do
obviously-
next spring, then.
Yeah, it's going to be spring, so we have some time. You're right. So there's no other, field teams that'll be taking the field between now and the spring. So we are hoping to, and Shane's not here tonight, but hopefully get that started in late summer, fall, so that it's finished and has time to settle for spring.
Is that something that we could look at a November amendment then, and add it then potentially, and
Well,
not
then that
include
would
it
be
if it's
too late.
needed?
Yeah, November would be too late if we're wanting to get that completed in the end of summer and fall.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking 27.
Yeah, right, spring of 27.
Yeah,
Right.
so November of this year,
Would be
you're
too
saying
late.
it's too late to do
Yeah,
what?
if this year we start the construction in the fall, then November would be too late to consider the amendment.
How long is construction
I have no
expected
clue.
to take?
I don't know how long it's gonna take to order the kit, and then construction. So I'm just thinking, if you're saying not included until November, not included in the budget, then November would be too late, because then we would have to incur the expense. We have to purchase the kit, we have to hire the workers for the concrete. So November would be too late.
What is the $65,000 for the community events and programming? What does that entail? How many events is that? What kind of things is it funding?
So I've given a rough budget of about 5,000 per month, maybe 4,000, considering we have the fireworks festival that goes over that amount. So that Jenny has room to schedule different events, whether it's at the park, here at the city building, throughout the city.
So that's 5,000 per event per month.
Not per event, per month.
Okay, for all of the events?
Correct.
Okay. And that's compared to, what was the community event fund this year?
I think 6,000. It was very
Yeah, we
minimal.
didn't have money.
What has she spent this year, though? Only 6,000, or have we got
About that, yeah. Then that's pretty much with the fireworks festival at this point. And that's on top of the 12,500 that we're receiving from
It's a
Bishop
very
Homes.
drastic increase, although I'm not saying it's not needed. Going from 6,000 to 65,000 is a big jump. I don't know if we
Yes.
could,
Residents are asking for more events and more
Phase
community
it.
engagement.
yeah.
And I totally understand that. I'm just concerned that this is a huge amount and we will be over our revenues. And that's just not good budgeting practice as far as I'm concerned.
I wouldn't say that it's not good budgeting practices. I would say that it's needed expenditures that this community has been lacking for years.
Can you walk through the increase of the public works budget? That was also a 122% increase from last year. I know we're carrying over the dump truck, and adding the additional person, but that seems significant as well for those two.
So we're adding one full-time employee, so that's part of the cost.
Right.
We also have additional expenses for repairs and maintenance. I also increased the amount which which is explained in the budget package. There is grants that are available through the state that we're attempting to get a match for. And so this fund should be dedicated towards that, so that if we would have to match the amount the state requires in order to potentially receive those grants. So if we could potentially receive those grants, I believe one of them was up to $500,000, which we would have to have $100,000, a 20% match, which could potentially pave many roads in Ludlow, but we would need to have those funds set aside for those expenses.
Could we not legislate and appropriate the match at the time when we receive the award? I do that quite often. I've done that in the past.
If we're not wanting to do many amendments throughout the year, which is what I've been hearing, I think it'd be appropriate to do that now so that we have the funds available.
How much is the match that we're carving out, that we're earmarking?
That one is 20%, and I believe the other one is a 50% match that is required.
So what's that in total for the two grants?
Again, I don't have the exact amounts in front of me. How much did we increase for roads, Steve?
Because we've gone up from 337,000 to 747,000.
But that's not just roads, that's also including salaries, benefits.
We added the one person, the additional full-time person, and the $130,000
We
dump
did,
truck.
I think we budgeted, looks like 50,000 for additional pavings. There's another big jump was for the community center deck and ADA improvements. That was a big significant jump. Another 50,000 for that, and repairs and maintenance.
Steve, did you say upgrades for the ADA improvements at the community center?
Yes.
Correct.
I thought we discussed not doing those because it was an expense that we didn't think we needed to spend right now.
We discussed this at the last budget meeting. The previous administration had considered tearing down the community center. That is not my intention. We don't have any economic development happening at 800 Elm that we're aware of so far. But it is good practice that we keep up on the buildings that we have. We shouldn't let them fall
But the
down.
debt-
Oh, I'm not saying to let them fall down, but I don't see a need to tear out all the concrete.
Well, we're not
that's
tearing
there.
out the concrete. This is a improvement to the back deck. It's also for door openers for the front door and for the bathrooms.
So it sounds like the biggest cost on that is the deck.
Yes.
On the back, right?
Mhm.
How much is the deck?
We have estimated it, I think the original cost was a composite deck that Shane had priced out, but I think if we go with just wood, we're probably gonna be anywhere between 35, 40,000.
I would suggest a composite deck instead of wood. That gets a lot of wind damage down there off the river, and that's where all.
Sure, but I think we're probably
Weather
closer to
comes
50,000
from.
at that point. So
Could you
we
be
were trying to
closer
be
that?
conservative at the 35,000.
Would that also include the steps going from the deck to the backyard?
Yeah, everything on the
Okay.
deck, including
With
the steps.
composite,
Mhm.
all right.
Are there any more questions? And am I correct in the changes that we would like to make? We would not be doing a first reading tonight if we make these changes. That would be including 75,000 for the fire budget, for the striker system, and then the additional 6 months for a full 12 months for the 3 additional EMS positions. Is those the 2 changes that we would like to make?
Are there other areas that we can trim down, knowing we're adding those expenses, and we're talking about the $350,000 overage? Where are the areas that we can trim?
I would prefer not to trim anything based on the budget that I have proposed to council. These are things that the city has been asking for.
Well, so if you revisited the budget November, December timeframe,
Mhm.
and revenue's not coming in the way,
Then we can
Existing,
reevaluate
maybe
again
trim,
whether or not we
right?
need to trim expenses at that point if we think that revenues are not going to be what we projected.
would everyone be agreeable to that? Would that make sense?
I'm still struggling, so I'm gonna have to say no.
I think, I'm wondering, like, I'm a little confused in terms of what is included in the parks maintenance and operation versus what's in public works maintenance and operation for the community center, and why, and how those may or may not be different than what's in the building and facility operations community center budget for 82,000. So we've got those in 3 different buckets. Can we consolidate those into a realistic? I would like to potentially reduce the public works earmark until we know that we're gonna receive those funds, and I'd be happy to expedite a process to, because also we can match that fund if their overall budget,
We can
allows
reduce
for
it, we can reduce it, but I will say that we'll probably have to come back in quickly, because I think that they will be announcing those grant funds, probably before November.
Okay. And that's, how does other council feel about the Hollingsworth field lights, given that they're 150?
We've already made a promise to residents that that would be included in this budget.
I, as a council member, have not made any promises to anybody.
Well, the full council last year, did say that we would be making sure that that happened this year, the field lights.
To who? Just the community or the
The
school?
community, we had resident and a couple of people come in and ask why we did not have the field lights. They would like to have the field lights, and the council at that time agreed that we would try and make that happen.
I thought correct, that we would try to make that happen. I don't know that we made a promise
Putting
that
money
it would
towards the
happen.
budget be trying to
Did
ensure
that
that it
include the
happens?
school funding part of that? That's the city funding. all.
Yes, but again, that fell through due to an agreement with the prior city administrator.
Putting lights in front of the
Mhm,
school building.
From a grant that did not come to fruition from Southgate.
That's-
Those are the
I just don't, I don't feel like we made a promise for field lights for like next spring, and working with the baseball.
We agreed to
In
move
the
it from
city.
this past budget to this year's fiscal budget, and that was an agreement that council came to if we moved it to this fiscal year budget, out of last year's fiscal budget.
I agree they would be nice to have, but are they a necessity? I don't think so right now.
If council wants to remove it, that is up to council.
That's just my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see the lights up, but it's a luxury.
Exactly, yeah.
It's also
Me
something that
personally, I think we
the
can
community has
absorb
asked
it.
for. And
You
it's
know,
their tax
I think the reason why
dollars.
we were over, from the audit reports of last year, $1.2 million, and then the year before that, $1.4 million, is because we had a lot of one-time expenses shown on here, and a lot that that were not in the budget. And we're still okay, so I still say we're gonna be okay.
Right.
I think we're gonna be fine, especially if we, relook at everything in the November, December timeframe, we'll have almost a 100% guarantee of what the revenues would be.
Right.
Because we will know what they'll be.
And I agree with
That's
Julie,
kind of what I-
the out of balance makes me nervous.
Well, I think what we've seen before is we've never shown a carryover balance. You know, I know the expenses outweigh the revenues coming out on this one, but we've never shown the carryover balance from the general fund before.
Okay.
And now we're doing it.
It wasn't that because we transferred in an extra $250,000, the carryover.
No, that's what Steve is describing is that in previous budgets, we've never included unencumbered funds that would help ensure that expenses do not.
Because there was
No
another
other
expense,
revenues.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, when we purchased the 600 Elm Street property, I had thought it was gonna come out of the savings that we had, about 1.5 million, because we purchased it for 500,000. But I believe that came out of the general fund, didn't it?
Correct.
Did.
Oh, I
It
thought
was
it was
never
coming.
noticed that it came out of the
Right.
general fund. Never noticed. That was $5.5 million.
Right.
That's why I'm saying, I think we're gonna be okay on all this. I fully understand, you always want revenues to be higher than your expenses.
Mhm.
But with the carryover balance and the one-time things we've done since 2022, we've never seen anything to question, because the fund balances have been
Right.
what we wanted. I mean, you've always wanted them to be around, what, 2 million, something like that?
Yeah, I always try to keep a running total balance of about 2.2 million in the general fund, and successfully did that, so.
And if you remember, 8 years ago, the city started out with $0 in a savings account, contingency fund, and now we're 1.45 million. That's only going to grow, because I think you're looking at maybe different investments get a higher percentage
Right.
return. Obviously, that would be safe, we wouldn't have to eat it to the principal.
Right.
Mayor, it might be helpful when we put together, when we add these changes in there, that the ending fund balance, or at least even a following narrative portion, highlight what the new ending fund balance would be and how much of that will be carved out for our reserves and our savings.
I do think that I listed under that savings, I believe, an amount for the 4 months, correct, operational?
You did,
expenses.
but I think you just said, I think it was just something to the effect of like that the 4 months is a general best practice. But I think if we wanna, for sake of numbers, list what we are going to be intentional about keeping in our reserves, I think would help reassure council that we're not tapping into, that there's an additional fund balance in addition to our revenues, or in addition to our reserves that we're not touching.
Yeah, I do
give
list
it a
under
couple
fund
pieces.
balance and reserves that the city maintains general fund reserve balances equal to approximately 4 months of operating expenditures, which is currently what is in our investment fund.
Yeah, I think if you just broke out that equates to roughly that amount, that would show us that there's money carved out
Sure.
specifically.
But then it would change for next year. We would have to probably increase operational expenses based off of the buildings and the additional raises. Yeah.
I just think whatever
So
you're
you'd like an
projecting to
amount.
keep in the, I think I would feel good knowing how much we are gonna be keeping
Would
in
you
our
be fine
reserves.
with just an asterisk that included that amount?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
fine with that. And then would we be able to include a page within the document as well that highlights that discrepancy of that 900,000 in assets, of just highlighting where those assets are and what those are covering that are unaccounted for from our current fund balance?
I wouldn't say it's a discrepancy, it's more just, it's all inclusive of all assets that we have running total.
Okay. It would just be helpful to see, like, here's our current fund balance, and then we have these additional 900,000 in assets sitting over here that are also,
Is that something that we can do, Steve? Or is that,
We can always, I mean, the information is in our audit reports, so we can just pull from the
just
audit
pull
reports.
from
and-
the audit report, the assets? We can update with another asterisk, that this includes assets totaling this amount, which also includes,
It would be helpful to
Some
have that.
information.
Because it
Okay.
just, when we look at the screenshots of what we have of the 3.9 versus what's in here at 3 million, I look at it and wonder where that 9 million went, or why that wasn't included.
I will say we will do our best to try and get this updated by tomorrow, but we do need to have a first reading by tomorrow. In order to have the second reading, we'd have to do another special meeting on Monday to ensure that this is passed before the deadline. Would everyone be available on Monday for a special meeting, for a second reading?
Mayor, while they're looking at their calendars, when we look at the budget, the staffing breakdown on the last couple pages, it was on page 32. Could we outline, particularly for the administration, that we have what those 5 positions are, that we've removed the city administrator position, and it's the clerk?
I can put an asterisk.
That would be
beneath
helpful,
that.
just so that we have that documented, because then it will no longer be part of the pay plan when we adopt that.
The pay plan doesn't change, though. I mean, the pay plan itself wouldn't change. If we were to hire on a city administrator, we'd have to come back with an amendment in order to.
Okay, so will that not update to 0 for that
No.
authorized
No,
position?
it remains.
Okay.
The pay plan would just remain as is.
Okay. But that would be helpful, just to know which staff those 5 would be covering, and
Okay.
that the city administrator position funding has been removed.
Is there any additional questions regarding this budget? So we will make these changes and we will send them out to council as soon as we have them tomorrow before our regular council meeting. All right, so next up is new business, and that is discussion on the budget amendment for fiscal year 2025-2026. And we have a first reading. Would we like to do the first reading before we go into discussion, please?
All right, Ludlow Ordinance 2026-10, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for the city of Ludlow, Kentucky, calling for revenue of striking $6,012,000. Numbers.
Yeah, when it has that through it, it's hard to see.
So 6, I'm just gonna read the numbers, 6,012,310.81 to $6,201,580, and expenditures of striking $5,980,932.43 to $6,128,560. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ludlow City Council as follows. Section 1 of this budget for City of Ludlow fiscal year July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 be adopted. Transfer from fund balance remains at $250,000. Police Department revenue changes from $77,800 to $132,270. Grant revenue changes from $162,000 to $72,370. Fire and EMS revenue changes from $688,342.72 to $928,080. Fire grant Bromley contract remains at $90,000. Tax revenue changes from $3,407,808.09 to $3,737,410. License and permits change from $106,800 to $101,640. Other changes from $1,139,560,000 to $817,980. MRA, Municipal Road 8 Fund, changes from $90,000 to $71,380. Total revenues change from $6,012,310.81 to $6,201,580 total. Expenses, general government admin, changes from $2,120,614.43 to $2,289,460. Public Works, $337,390 to $364,570. Police, $1,618,178 to $1,765,760. Fire, $1,353,000 to $1,358,900. Parks from $242,750 to $100,510. Other remains at $219,000. Municipal Road Aid Fund changes from $90,000 to $30,360. Total expenses changed from $5,980,932.43 to $6,128,560. Balance changes from a positive $31,378.38 to a positive or surplus $73,020. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance shall be and hereby are repealed to the extent of said conflict. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force from and after its passage, publication, which may be in summary form and recording according to law.
All right, thank you. This is again a first reading. Do we have any discussion?
I was just curious, from the report that we received at the last council meeting in mid-June, we were under budget in all of our respective departments, and now we're over budget in all of the areas. So what happened in the last 2 weeks?
Let me see that again. I don't think that we're over budget on everything. There is, so there was amounts that are being, and this is explained in the supplement that I provided. There were certain things that were coded to parks that were technically administration, so that had to be moved to be recoded. There was also, let me see. Just trying to bring up the document that I sent to everyone.
So I apologize, the document was sent 2 hours before this meeting, so I'm working from the version that was sent Friday.
But
So
I'm
if
just
it was
trying to
an
give
addition.
yes, this is just
Yeah.
an explanation of where the changes are coming from. So I had listed for administration, community center expenses had increased approximately 6,000. The river stage expenses, we had to add an additional 10,000, that was for the electrical setup.
Where are those at in the document you sent? The supplement?
The summary, it's on the first page, it's listed, under
First-
administration.
What page of the packet?
It's not on the, this is on the fiscal year 25-26 budget amendment summary that was sent.
Should be right before the, like.
It's in this,
The
okay.
next to last
Okay.
pages, like the ordinances at the very end.
Okay,
There were
so
3 pages before.
We had also
Okay.
discussed that South Bank, and this was in November, we had discussed that invoice,
thank you.
the invoice from South Bank Partners, we received last minute. We had already prepared the budget amendment in November. We received that knowledge that that needed to be paid, and that's for the raise money with South Bank Partners. So that was an additional $77,200 that is going to administration, with a due date of June 30th. We also had an additional $10,000 for South Bank Partners, according to the agreement with them, and in verbal conversations, for whatever investment, additional investment they put into the parks, which since 2024 has been $50,000. They asked for the additional amount of $10,000 for the 20% match. Then we have street utility costs went up approximately $30,000 over what we had budgeted. The urban forestry grant of $78,000 was included. I was under the impression that we would be receiving that money in full, but apparently it operates on a reimbursement basis. So as we incur those expenses, we submit for reimbursement. Under parks, we had approximately $17,150 in expenditures that were reclassified from parks to municipal road aid fund. Again, I mentioned the urban forestry grant on how that was moved. Public works, fuel cost, and this is across the board. Fuel costs went up. There's no real anything we can do for that. Fuel costs went up $5,500 for public works. Repairs and maintenance increased approximately $8,350. There was a public works truck payment that had been omitted that I was unaware of. It had been removed apparently. So that had to be re-included. Municipal road aid, salt costs for this last year's, we did not budget for that, apparently. So that was $6,200. And again, I note the $17,150, that was reclassified from Parks to MRA. For police department, an additional $30,000 in revenue and expenditures associated with the K-9 program that was added. We had additional K-9 training dues subscriptions, approximately $16,500. K-9 supplies increased $8,000. Uniform expenses increased approximately $3,000. Fuel expenses for police went up $15,000. And again, we talked about the difference in salaries increase plus the additional officer. Additional context, I had noted, just to give you a better explanation again on the South Bank Partners invoice that we had discussed in November that was to be included in the next amendment, which is what we're doing. And then I also note the $10,000 increase for that invoice based off of the matching 20% that we must provide for all, additional work that they do on our parks, and their investment was $50,000. So, again, what you're seeing in the amended amount, this is just projections based on what we know, what we've received so far. Any accounting corrections that still have to be done, any obligations that also due to the grant administration adjustment, departmental reallocations, contractual agreements, operating costs that just developed throughout this fiscal year. So as we're ending, I do feel pretty solid on the projected amounts for the amendment.
So remind me what everything that the 77,200 for South Bank entailed.
Yeah,
for
that's part of the RAISE program. So basically, it was a bunch of different communities have went into this program. We basically kind of buy into it because South Bank is investing in us. So all of these communities together brought together funds that would help other communities with their investments and improvements to the town.
Okay. And that is separate than the $10,000 match?
That's correct.
So we'll have the 77, and we have not yet paid that invoice because it was not yet approved in this amendment?
I don't think that it's due June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the other half, right? It was
Yes, the first
150.
half was paid in
Paid the first
2024.
half,
Mhm.
And
This is
we
finishes
were
it out.
supposed to pay the second half, but we never paid it.
Correct. And we became aware of it as we were bringing about the amendment last year in November. I mean, I became aware of it. Previous administration knew about it, but I did not. Any other discussion? All right. The next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. This meeting is adjourned.